Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. Today we're working our way through your viewer requested questions and we're looking at how to interact with an AWACS, in particular how we decipher his bra calls, his bogey dopes and his pictures. And at first glance it's all very confusing, but once you understand how it works it's pretty simple. To understand it, there's three concepts that we've got to get our head around. What is bra, B-R-A? What's the difference between heading and bearing in the scope of DCS and our plot here? And what's magnetic declination? All these things are relevant if we are to interpret the AWACS calls properly. Easy one, BRA, B-R-A, bearing, range, altitude. If we ever want to disclose the location of a hostile, which is what the AWACS is going to do, among other things, then we're always going to need a bearing, which is an angle, if you like, a range, which is the range from a relative point to him, and the altitude, and that's always going to be the altitude of him from sea level in thousands of feet. Additionally, you may have an aspect as well, but you won't always get that. So let's take a theoretical bra from our mission bullseye here to this enemy, the A10A. We look at the top there, it actually says heading, but just pretend that says bearing, 098 degrees, and we'll always do that in a 3-digit format. The range, 28.08 nautical miles, and we'll round it up to 28 or maybe even 30. Altitude, we'll click on him there, look at the bottom left. You can see he's at 6,500 feet. We're going to round it up and say he's at ASL 7,000. And what we could even do is add a aspect in relation to our reference, our bullseye here. He's traveling currently in about that direction, so his aspect will be flanking right. So that's our bra of this target here, with the reference being this bullseye. Next is the difference between heading and bearing, as is relevant to this plot here. Now this is more complicated in reality, but just to keep it super simple, a bearing we can draw from anywhere to anywhere. It's basically a two-dimensional vector. So that is a bearing from bullseye to Batumi. That is a bearing from Sukumi to the A10. That is a bearing from the A10 to that F-16. A heading can only come from an aircraft, and usually the reference aircraft where the call is being referenced to. So this aircraft in this case is heading 027, which is going to be out something like that. That there is the heading for that aircraft. If I wanted to change that, I could say make your heading that 072 or 108, or I could say that this aircraft here is heading, I can see down there, he is heading 239, or he's going to change his heading to 145, but this bullseye can never have a heading, despite what it says up there. We can only draw a bearing from a bullseye. Sukumi can never have a heading, it can only have a bearing, and so on. The bearing and the heading used in DCS here are what we call absolute headings and bearings. That means they are always drawn from north. So that there is going to be 0, that there is 090, 180, 270, and back up north. And that brings us on to the third thing we must understand. Magnetic declination is a thing in real life and a thing in DCS. And to really understand the calls that we're going to get from AWACS or other planes or whatever, you need to understand magnetic declination. Now that's a video into itself. That's a 5 or 10 minute video to explain that. So I'm going to link our introduction to magnetic declination and how to compensate for it in the description of this video. Next, we're going to jump in this F-16 here, and we're going to communicate with this AWACS here. It's an E3, but it could be the Aleutian type, or it could be a Hawkeye or whatever. They're all going to do the same job, as long as it's on the same coalition, which it is. We need to know the frequency that this guy's contactable on, and I programmed him in the mission editor as 251 AM. So that's a UHF band. So the first thing is to set my radio up. I'm going to go COM 1, which is my UHF band radio. I'm going to go, 5100, enter. Okay, and then I'm going to press the button for that. For me, it's going to be that there, UHF transmit. If you've got easy communications on, it will be that one there, communications menu. So, ping, I'm going to go AWACS 251. Here are the different things that we can ask for from the AWACS, who is Overlord on 251 megahertz AM. Now this list will vary depending on the capabilities of your aircraft. If you've got an aircraft, for instance, that doesn't have an attack radar, we won't have declare. If you've got one that can't air-to-air refuel, you won't have tanker, and so on. I can ask for a vector to bullseye, so what I would be asking for is a bearing from me as the reference to bullseye, and he will come back with that bearing, and then the job for me would be to make my heading the same as that bearing. So let's go and do that.
Overlord, in the field, 1-1, Alpha check from Bull's picture.
018,460. So reference as me, bullseye is going to be a bearing of 018, which is there, and 60, which is there. So we've plotted it there, so, you know, within a couple of miles. Do another request. Home plate.
Overlord, infield 1-1. Alpha, check to home plate. Infield 1-1. Overlord.
So this time the reference is bulls. I am no longer the reference. And it's important to, if you ever see bulls in there, that means that is the reference point. Why does it do that? I don't know. It's just how AWACS operate when some certain questions are asked. So find mission bulls. In this case, I am red, so that is mission bulls. I'm going to draw a line for 122 and for 100 miles, which is there. So it's taking me there, which is just out a couple of miles. Again, these are never perfectly accurate. Taking me to Batumi, it's saying that is the closest, nearest friendly base. Or if these bases aren't friendly, just the nearest neutral base. Back in. Contact him. Tanker. I haven't got a tanker, so I can't actually try it at the moment, but that's going to give me the bearing and a range to a tanker with either myself as a reference or bulls as a reference. And if bulls is a reference, it'll say bulls. If I'm the reference, then it won't say anything. Next is the cool stuff. So when we're talking about bad guys, but guys of other coalition that the AWACS can see, we've first got request bogey dope. That is going to ask where the nearest bad guy is from me as a reference. It's really important to understand this. Next is request picture. Request picture is using bulls as a reference. It's nothing to do with me at all. When we're requesting bogey dope, that's looking for the nearest bad guy to me. Requesting a picture is trying to build up a picture of the battlefield with the reference as being bullseye. So let's go and plot those two things. Bogey dope.
Overlord, infield 1-1. Request bogey dope. Infield 1-1. Overlord, Bra 041-470 at 7,000 knots.
Let's break that sentence down. He's saying, who's the message to? Enfield 1-1, that's me. Who's the message from? Overlord, that's him. What type of message is he giving me? He's giving me a BRA, a BRA, bearing, range, and an altitude. Who is the reference? Well, he's not mentioned bulls, so I am the reference. What is the bearing from me, 041? How many miles? 70 miles. At what altitude, ASL in feet? Now, this may change, bearing in mind how you've got your DCS set up. I'm in imperial feet and nautical miles. You may be in kilometers, so it's just something to bear in mind. At 7,000 ASL, and in this case, because I am the reference point, then a aspect of the hostile is relevant. It's important for me to know what his aspect is, his direction is relative to mine, and it's hot. It could be flanking left, could be flanking right, or it could be cold. It's going to be, for me, 041 for 70 there. So that there is where it's telling me the bad guy is. Again, it's 2 or 3 miles out. It always is. The further out it is, the less accurate it will be because he likes to round up. For instance, 68 miles, he'll round up to 70 and so on. And we can check his altitude. It's right. And we can check his direction, which is about that. He is indeed heading hot. So that's how a bogey dope works. So let's go on to the next thing, which is request a picture.
Overlord, infield 1-1. Request picture. Infield 1-1. Overlord, signal group at bullseye 101-426 at 7,000.
Let's break it down again. Who's the message to? Enfield 1-1, that's me. Who is it from? Overlord. What's in the message? It's not a BRA, it's a picture. He will give me, when I request a picture, a full list of hostile groups. Currently, there's only one group active that is hostile in this map, so it's just going to give me single groups. If there was more than one group, it would be group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, and he would just keep talking until he's covered them all. Because he's trying to build up situational awareness. He's trying to build up a picture of where all those aircraft are. Note that at bullseye, so he's declared that I am not the reference. Bullseye is the reference. That's how a picture works. A bearing from bullseye of 101-426 at 7,000. And note we do not any longer have a aspect. You know, which direction the hostile is heading. That's just not how you do a picture. Let's go and plot that. From bullseye, we're going to go 101-426, which is there. So it's a little bit more accurate this time. That's where he is. And group 2 would be there. Group 3 would be there. Group 4 would be there. Group 5 would be there. And so on. And that's how you're going to build up a picture. So some smart aircraft like FA-18C, like I think the A-10, maybe the Harrier, I can't remember, have the ability to program into them the mission bullseye within their navigation system. And so if you requested this picture, you can use the information on your data link screen or your radar screen to essentially plot where these guys are. But most aircraft, including this F-16, at least at the moment, we don't have the capability. So to make any use of this picture, then the only way I've got to do that is to go onto this F10 map at the moment. And in reality, you wouldn't see that guy. He would be hidden in reality because of the mission options. And I would literally have to draw a line out there for 101 for 26. And that would be how I got my situational awareness. And then I could triangulate him to him that way if I was requesting a picture. So depending on what plane you've got, depends how you're going to use that picture information. Now, a lot of this has been superseded now because we have data link, decent data link in DCS. Hornet has its own data link, so you don't need to request these pictures if you're on Hornet because it all comes through automatically. F-16 will have data link, F-14 has data link, so all this picture information that we're requesting will be done automatically on your SA screen or equivalent. The only other thing that I haven't shown you is declare there. Declare means if I go and lock a target up, and I may go and do that in a second, lock that A10 up, then I will declare, and then the AWACS will tell me whether the target that I have locked up is hostile or friendly. It's just a way of IFFing. So that's shown how to use all of these guys here, but there is an inaccuracy, and that's because of the third thing we looked at, which is magnetic declination. The magnetic declination or variation in this particular part of the world, the Caucasus, is between about 5.5 and 6.5 degrees. That means there's going to be inaccuracy in what the AWACS is telling us. Now, the AWACS in DCS works in true bearings. Our plane here works in magnetic. It does not work in true. And out of interest, our F10 cheat map here is in true. And let's just show a little bit of that inaccuracy now. So I'm going to go and find that target there, 042, stand by. So if you look at my fire control radar screen, I'm going to get this guy right on my nose. And I'm going to request the bogey dope from the AWACS, stand by.
Overlord, infield 1-1. Request bogey dope. Infield 1-1. Overlord.
So just take note, because the AWACS is telling us where that guy is as us as a reference, he's using a true bearing of 041. Well, actually, we can see he's actually 035 from here, and that's because the aircraft is magnetic based and he is true based, and the difference between the two in this part of the world is about 6 degrees, so 41 take away 6 is 35. If I actually did what he said and went for 041 there, I would actually be heading there. So you've got to remember when using AWACS command to compensate for the declination. If you know you're here and then AWACS says 041, you know that actually means 035. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but 6 degrees over, let's say, 100 miles is a deviation of about 36 miles. You know, it's a lot. It's a massive error. And bear in mind, if you went to the Nevada map, the magnetic declination in that part of the world is about 12 degrees. So massive errors, like 50-mile errors between what AWACS is telling you and what your aircraft is telling you. In fact, there's one more tiny point I want to make. I've showed everything I want to show, except if I went in a Flaming Cliffs 3 plane, that is not magnetic, that is true. It's automatically compensated for. In fact, why don't I quickly just jump in, say an F-15, and just double check that. So it's telling us that we're on 027. Yeah, so FC3 planes are automatically set to true, just to make things simple. That's all I've got to say. I hope that was useful. I'll see you later.